Yeah, alright, I think we'll... Yeah, great start to Oracle of Seasons, guys. Okay, but I think we're back, so... once again, I'm Nitros. I'm gonna be running Legend of Zelda Oracle of Seasons today. And I have fellow runner Phenomenon with me in virtual commentary, so I guess we'll just try to get started again. So, 3, 2, 1, go. So yeah, this is Oracle of Seasons, and the category I'm going to be running is, once again, all essences. And some people might think that this means like some kind of collect everything kind of category or something, but in reality it's just what we call all dungeons in this game, because the essences are what we collect at the end of every dungeon. So this run is going to see all of the 8 dungeons in the game, unlike the any percent category in which we currently only beat 2 of them.
Yeah, which is super cool because those later dungeons have the best movement, some of the best tricks, and the best items. And we can't miss out on the best item in any Zelda game, which is not a controversial statement at all.
And what we also can't miss out on are these intro cutscenes here, which feature a lot of fun text mashing.
Press a little bit of A, press a little bit of B, do it quickly enough, you're mashing through, no problem at all. And we get to see Onyx again so quickly, when, I mean, you barely get to see any of him throughout the entire game, because he shows up twice before you fight him at the end. Get to take in all of its glory.
Yeah, so once again, the plot of this game is essentially that Din, who is the Oracle of Seasons, gets kidnapped by this villain guy called Onox, and it's essentially our end mission to, you know, defeat the final boss, which is Onox, and free Din. And because she's the Oracle of Seasons and she's getting captured, it's basically going to throw all of the seasons in the world into complete chaos. And what that means is that all of the seasons basically all around are going to be very, very random. And that's basically like what links into the main mechanic of this game, which is that you change seasons all over the place in order to actually make it through different kinds of terrain. And yeah, we're going to be seeing that quite a bit later, or fairly early on, but first we have to go through some introductory stuff and the first dungeon as well.
Yeah, I'm going to pick up our classic starting item, the sword, here in a little bit. And we are going to be getting that Rod of Seasons very early on compared to the more casual playthrough of the game. You'd kind of expect to get all 4 of the seasons kind of as you're going throughout. But because we want to go fast, we're going to be picking those up pretty early on, just to make sure that we have complete control and can access pretty much anywhere we want to go a lot earlier.
Yeah, so like Fee just said, our first goal is going to be to get the sword, which is in the Hero's Cave, which I'm in right now. It's a pretty basic, like, mini dungeon where you just kind of solve some puzzles by pushing blocks and whatnot, hitting some buttons here and there. Nothing too special since we don't actually have any items yet. And in a minute here we're going to be seeing the first instance of a save and reset. That's going to take me back to the start of this cave, the last kind of entrance that I entered. And it basically is going to be used all throughout the run in order to save time with backtracking, since saving and resetting is very, very fast on the Japanese version that I'm playing on. And it's also because the text, there's a lot less text on this version due to the way the Japanese language expresses things with fewer characters, so it's going to save quite a few minutes even due to just how much text and saving quits there are in this run.
And in addition to that sort of save and reset that you're seeing, there's a slightly different version that's a hard reset, which will reset the RNG values of the game, which we're going to use quite a few times throughout the run, so that we can manipulate our RNG properly to manipulate enemy movements, certain item drops, just to make sure that we're getting the cleanest line through everything, and simplifying a lot of fights and rooms that may otherwise be a bit of a hassle to deal with due to the randomness of it.
Yep, so now that we have our sword, that let me break this barrier so we can visit our favorite character here, the Maku Tree, and go for even more text mashing. And he's gonna give us the key to the first dungeon, basically. I am saying yes to this guy. I am not sure. I'm not paying attention. Yeah, you have to say
talk
no
about
because he asks you if he's gonna repeat his dialogue again. But yeah, that's an interesting mistake. But we're good now.
No, we're heading into the first dungeon, the Gnarled Root dungeon. As we get in there, you are going to notice, maybe, potentially not, that its layout is very reminiscent of another Zelda game, if you're familiar with Zelda 1. For anyone that doesn't know a lot of the lore behind Oracle of Seasons and Ages to a little bit of the same extent, is that Seasons in particular started out as Zelda 1 remake in essence, but as it developed over time, it would become more distinct. But the remnants of its origins have definitely left an impact on the game's design. A lot of the bosses and mini bosses are older Zelda, those Zelda 1 bosses as well. And like this dungeon in particular, its layout matches the dungeon from Zelda 1 also.
Yeah, in these rooms we're going to be seeing like kind of the first instances of enemy RNG coming into play. A lot of these enemies basically can be spawned in random positions across the screen, and a big part of this run is essentially being able to appropriately react to these random placements and deal with the enemies accordingly in rooms where you either have to avoid them or kill all of the enemies in the room.
And something you'll see here that you're not really going to see later on is that Nitros may have to go out of his way a little bit in order to kill some extra enemies in this first dungeon, because we're trying to get the witch Maple to show up. Essentially, Maple will fly around on a broom on a screen outside of the dungeon once you've killed 30 enemies. And we're going to use a little bit of manipulation, a little bit of RNG, a little bit of sword swinging to use Maple to give us some nice items that we're going to want to use later in the run. Well, use one of them and hope we don't have to use the other one. So you see there, he kind of goes down to kill some keys that maybe seems a little bit odd in a speedrun setting.
Yeah, so we're coming up on the first mini-boss here. There's kind of a quick kill you can do. I messed up there because I threw my bomb a bit too early, but it's alright. He still goes down pretty quickly.
And here we're going to pick up our first item, the Seed Satchel, which is going to come with a nice little set of Ember Seeds. They have the ability to, as one might expect, burn things and light things. You can think of the sort of magic powder in other Zelda games. However, here we have 20 of them. So another one of the main features that you see in only really the Oracle games as one of its main mechanics are those seed trees. We're going to use this Seed Satchel to pick up a number of different seeds that we're going to make use of throughout the run. And we're actually going to see the start of the first RNG manipulation here after this room. So I'm going to be
that's
quiet here.
Kind of bad. I'm going to pick up some extra health here just in case. Okay, yeah, this is fine. This is a backup you almost never have to see, but unfortunately I took a lot of damage here, which was not intended, so it's going to be a little slow, but it's alright, so...
Be a little quiet start here for him to listen in, and I'll explain it afterwards. All right, so right there you saw him stop to swing his sword. What he's doing is listening for sword tones. There is a high, middle, and low sound that the sword makes when you swing it. And by hard resetting, we reset the values of the RNG, and then we can listen to those sword tones to let us know where we're at on a particular RNG roll. As you're going to do it again here to manipulate the boss. And again, it's all about that RNG manipulation here to take care of Aquamentus, making sure that he doesn't charge forward with his head down and add some time to the fight. And that's it. That's Dungeon 1 complete.
And yeah, normally that boss has a few different attacks that he can do, but obviously I manipulated him to item. And the manipulation is going to continue here on the next screen as well, which Fee can probably explain after I do some more slashing here.
Okay, so we got some more slashes there, and this is Maple that you're about to see come on the screen. If you were paying attention, you might have seen as Nitro's clinked with Maple that a red vial popped out, and you may have seen the glimpse of a ring. Both of those are important to the run. One of them is more necessary than the other. The potion, it will bring you back to life if you die. Nitros isn't going to die because he's sick, but just in case, you know, it happens, he has it there as a sort of a backup. The other one is that ring. So in addition to the seasons, in addition to the seeds, there are also rings in the Oracle games. So you can pick up a variety of unidentified rings that you'll take to a ring shop in order to identify them, that give different little quirks and abilities. Some of them are just increased, like the power of your bomb throws. Some of them are just aesthetic in nature. But the one that we picked up is a ring that will increase the damage we do and also increase the damage that we take. So it's a little bit of that risk reward there. So as long as you're willing to play with your life a little bit, you're able to kill things a bit faster. So all of that manipulation that we saw early on was geared towards getting that from Maple. We're going to be continuing that manipulation all the way to about halfway through dungeon, full of sword swings a bit later on to keep that in place. It's all for a very specific purpose. And here we saw Nitro's playing a little bit of hide and seek with Rosa, the Subrosion. Rosa's pretty blind though. The hood sort of covers her peripherals so she can't see anything but straight ahead. And we're going to bring Nitros into Subrosia now. Subrosia is the underworld of seasons, essentially. Instead of having a dark world like Link to the Past, we simply go deep underground, and we get to hang out with a couple of robed individuals who, despite the lava and the sweltering heat, they gotta stay covered up, you know? They don't want to get burned.
Yeah, so now we're heading to that area that was crumbling in the intro cutscene, which is the Temple of Seasons, and this is where we're finally going to get the Rod of Seasons that we talked about earlier, and that's going to be the item that actually allows us to change seasons at some sort of free will around the world. It's a little limited, but basically there's these like stumps placed around the world where if you swing the rod, you can change the season on them, but our rod doesn't actually come with any seasons to begin with, so we have to collect them all individually from the 4 different towers here. And we're basically going to be coming back here in between some dungeons in order to pick up our abilities to change multiple different seasons. Just walking to the lava there, that's fine. But yeah, the first one we're going to get here is Winter.
And the main reason to pick up Winter, the main thing that Winter is going to do for us, it'll freeze over certain bodies of water. We're going to see that put to use pretty much immediately here. It also creates smaller snowdrifts that can block the way and can be dug up with a shovel or taken care of by certain animal companions. And it's also going to create these larger snow mounds that we can walk on top of to access certain places that we otherwise wouldn't be able to. So we're going to put that to use almost immediately as we come out here.
Yeah, so that was basically all we were going to do on this particular trip to Subrosia. Like I said, we will be coming back here at many times later on in the run, just to collect more seasons and do some other fun stuff. But for now, we're done here, so we're going to be heading back to the normal world and put our new season to good use.
And remember, Nitros is still holding a manipulation that started back at the boss key of Dungeon 1. So we see those sword swings to keep that manipulation. It does mean that as he's moving through these screens, that there is a little bit of precision with that movement, because the RNG rolls whenever you have enemies that are changing their direction, or if moblins are shooting arrows at you, that can roll the RNG. So if you linger too long and hang out, that movement can mess up your manipulation. There are certain backups that you can kind of learn or get a feel for the more you play the game, but the cleaner you play, the easier it is for you in the long run.
Yes, you actually saw that in that menu I just did, I equipped the rod and nothing else on my A slot. And that's because, for one, I'm manipulating the enemy, so I won't actually need a weapon to deal with them. But also because I'm going to get my next item here, which is the shovel. It's used to basically dig through these piles on the ground. I'm digging twice there to, once again, manipulate some more RNG.
We're making it through. We're just about to make it into Dungeon 2 here. Before we do, we're going to pick up some mystery seeds, which are the second seed that we're going to add to our satchel. Mystery seeds are not super useful in the long grand scheme of it all, but we are going to need them a bit later on, in particular, as they are required to access one of the dungeon keys, in a way. But now we're in Dungeon 2. We're here.
Yeah, so this manipulation is essentially going to end once I get to the dungeon item, which is going to be fairly soon. I just need to get through this room first here. Do a final sequence of some sword slashes here. Should hopefully be good. So this is again to manipulate some of the enemy patterns here in this dungeon, since they can otherwise be very unpredictable.
Yeah, you can have these little helmet buddies here, can end up spawning against corners of the wall, and these goblins in particular can be a huge pain, as they can walk around randomly and make it impossible to hit with bombs or your sword. But we saw Nitros pick up the power bracelet there, a nice little tasty croissant that we can use to lift up heavy rocks and grass and anything we want to pick up, really.
We're also coming up on a very exciting room here where I'm gonna be bombing a lot of these blocks. You technically have like a limited time to do this, but it's such a long time that we never really notice it while we're speedrunning, really. But it's all to reach this chest here in the middle.
There we go.
Let's hope our mob in front here cooperates. Yeah, he shot me there, but at least I didn't fall in the water, so it's fine.
You got a classic Moblin shoots you, you throw the grass out of force, it kills him, it's a win-win, really. He got some chip damage in, you got death in, so it's fine.
Yeah, and you'll see here, I'm no longer manipulating, partly because of these enemies on screen here, the kind of bats flying around, they're called keys in this game. And like enemies like these guys are a big reason why manipulating stuff in this game can be kind of hard still, despite the control that you have. And that's because when certain enemies, such as those keys, are flying around on the screen, RNG basically is rolling like every other frame when they're moving around. So, in order to keep manipulation, a lot of the time you have to like make certain strats to move through screens with these guys frame perfectly. But like I mentioned, at this point I'm no longer holding them on nips, so their placements are going to be pretty random. I'm a little low on health, but it should be okay. There's nothing really too dangerous coming up, I want to say.
What do you mean? You're about to fight a mini-boss. That's a dangerous game.
Yeah, see, do you want to explain how this is going to work here?
Hey, so Nitros hates the floor. It's a really big deal. He can't stand it, so he just likes to blow it up enough times that he can just leave, because the floor gets sick of it. So we just see the bombs thrown, no problem, easy dead, mini-boss over. So what we see is one of the few major, like, especially speedrunning relevant differences between the Japanese version and the English version of the game. For whatever reason, when you enter into that room, the second mini-boss, Facade is its name, Facade's hurt box essentially loads in as soon as you get into the room, but his trigger to spawn doesn't load until you go below halfway through the room. So long as you blow up the floor before you go halfway down, Facade dies. Which means we don't have to deal with it, because Facade, though not a boss that you're, or mini boss that you're likely to die to, just because its attacks aren't terribly aggressive or anything like that, or dangerous, there are a number of cycles that Facade can do where he just disappears and spawns holes on the ground where you can't do anything to hurt him, and it just wastes a bunch of time. So we get to save a lot of time by just killing him before he spawns. And in the time it took me to get there, we're now at the boss. It's Dodongo, the king of Dodongs. As in, I think, pretty much every Zelda game, Dodongo loves a good tasty treat. We feed that treat, and then it gets a little bit bloated. We need to let a little bit of the air out, so we just give him a nice little prod, a little poke, and we just help expel that air until Dodongo gets their fill and can just sort of breathe out easy and let us go. Nothing violent, anything like that.
And that's the second dungeon.
Look at that. 2 essences. We're 2 of 8 already. Speed.
Yeah, so before Dungeon 3, like the segment between Dungeon 1 and Dungeon 2 and before Dungeon 1 weren't that long, but that's mostly going to change before 3 and 4. We're going to have quite a bit longer sections on the overworld where we need to take care of quite a few things, so I'm basically just going to leave this area here the way I came, since I don't really have a faster way, so we're going to be going back to the village. This path can actually be a little scary because I'm no longer holding an RNG manipulation, so the enemies do have a chance to bully me quite a bit. Thankfully it seems fairly alright so far. Yeah, okay. Besides that last guy, it was pretty nice luck overall with the enemies. And yeah, now that we get back into the village, the first thing I'm gonna do here is enter this screen down here just to see that tree, and that's gonna open a warp point for later. And now I'm gonna talk to the ring shop guy, Vasu, and that's because, like you may have seen after Dungeon 1 earlier, I did that manipulation of the witch, Maple, and what I got from that, besides the potion, like we mentioned, is the power ring that I just got from the shop here. Essentially how the power ring works is that it increases the damage that we deal with the sword, but in turn it also increases the damage that I take from all the enemies, so it's a bit of a double-edged sword in a way. And we're mostly going to use that to like defeat some of the mini-bosses and bosses a lot quicker because we have a lot more damage, but it's obviously a bit risky otherwise to have equipped all the time, since, like I mentioned, you take like half a heart more extra damage from every hit you take, so if you're not careful with it on, you can take tons of damage very quickly and it can be hard to recover.
Yeah. But we gotta take a break from saving the girl in order to become a boxing champion, so we're gonna beat up this penguin real quick. And there we go, we're now a boxing champion. As a reward, as you always do, we get boxing gloves. What we're gonna do with those boxing gloves is turn them into our kangaroo buddy. Because everyone knows all kangaroos love to box. Ricky, not a very good kangaroo, not a very good boxer, lost their gloves in a fight with Ricky, or with Bueno. So now we get to give them back. As a reward, Ricky gives us their flute, which means we can get to call Ricky whenever we want. And Ricky is one of 3 animal companions. The worst one, if you have a different opinion, that's okay. But it's the worst one, but it's the fastest one, which I think if you speedrun most games, I think you probably run into many situations where the worst one is also the fastest one. So we just kind of have to deal with it. We have to cope, but we're going to be fine. So Ricky here allows us to hop up high cliffs like that, along with jumping over holes. Can also punch while moving, breaks things while he moves because he's a lumbering oaf. You know. But we got to say goodbye, and now we get to pick up the Pegasus Seeds, which are our version of the Pegasus Boots, where we trade the unlimited usage of the Pegasus Boots for a cap of 20. We have a lot more mobility with them. We don't get stuck going in a straight line or a straight line with some slight drift. We have a lot more freedom of movement. I'm going to shut up for a second.
No, it's fine. You can keep talking.
Oh, I lied. I'm not going to shut up for a second. But those Pegasus Seeds, we're going to be making use of throughout the entirety of the run from here on out because they just make us go faster. We're able to be mobile, we're able to move very quickly, and a lot of the RNG manips that you're going to see, especially in this next little bit here, are going to be geared towards making sure that enemies and grass and different things drop Pegasus Seeds for us so we can continuously pick them up without ever having to go slow. The faster we go, the happier we all are. And if we need to manipulate the game, gaslight it into giving us more stuff, then that's fine. We're going to do it. We're going to go fast no matter what.
Alright, so as you saw, I started another manipulation by hard resetting the game, so I'm going to be listening for some more sounds on the screen here. Alright, so basically what I'm going to attempt to do with this manip is once again to hold it until the dungeon item of the next dungeon, Dungeon 3. It's quite difficult to do so, but I'm going to try my best, and it's not that big of a deal if I mess up, but my goal basically is going to be to also manipulate a lot more of those Pegasus seeds that we picked up along the way. So let's see here. Very nice.
In addition to that, that manipulation will hold into this next little area of Subrosia, where we need to dig up a star ore because star ores are super valuable. It typically can spawn in one of 4 spots. With our manipulation, we make sure it shows up in the quickest one right here. First try every time.
Yeah, and the reason why we got that star ore is because you needed to exchange it for this ribbon here, which we're going to give to Rosa, which we saw earlier in the game for Dungeon 2. We played that little hide-and-seek sequence, if you recall. But now she's actually going to be our ally, because she has the ability to unlock key doors around the world here, so we're going to need her to reach our next season, essentially.
In the 12 minutes, we left Rosa alone, and they lost the bow. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. But the second season we're going to be picking up here is Summer. Summer happening right now. I don't know if it's hot out there, but I am dying. It's very, very hot right now. But hey, Summer, we're going to be using that to grow vines and dry up certain areas, certain pockets of water, so that we can access places that we wouldn't normally be able to access. We need it in order to access Dungeon 3, as Dungeon 3 sits atop a vine, essentially. So it's blocked off from us until we are able to get there.
Yeah, so now we're just gonna make it our way back through Subrosia the way we came in, and the manipulation is not quite over. As you can see, I only have 12 Pegasus seeds left at this point, which is over half of what I can hold. I don't think we mentioned it, but basically the maximum capacity for our seed bag for each particular seed is 20 in total, and Pegasus seeds are especially important since, obviously, as you can see, they make us run a lot faster. So they're going to be a very vital part of the run to basically manage the amount to use them on screens where they save the most time. But I'm going to try to manipulate a few more of them coming up here, so let's see how this goes. So I should get 2 of them dropping from these leaves here. And the manip's not quite over yet, so I'm still going to be extending it into the dungeon.
Head on into Dungeon 3, the Poison Moth's lair. Poison Moth's lair is going to get us, the second, third best item in the game, I guess, depending on how you want to look at it. Because while we've been jumping around with the oaf that is Ricky, we ourselves would like a taste of that without any assistance. We're strong, we're independent. We don't need no kangaroo to tell us how to live our life or what we can or can't do. So we want to jump around on our own. And there is, of course, only one way for us to do that, which is to steal a feather. Here, while this manip is happening, you're also seeing these floor masters pop up from the ground, chase after Nitros. You're going to see them do a little bit of somewhat erroneous movements. These are to essentially ensure that the hands don't spawn on top of them, because if they grab you, they send you back to the start of the dungeon, which is unpleasant, slow, and not fun. so by moving in certain directions, you manipulate them.
Yeah, we're also gonna be coming back through that area, so you're gonna see that manip one more time before I get to the mini boss as well.
Okay. About to come to the end of the manipulation here, as Nitros kills the Moldorms in this next room, and then manipulates the position of the mimics in the following room in order to just get a quick kill to grab that Pegasus. Rock's feather, not Pegasus feather. Wrong mythical beast.
Alright, nice. We got the whole manip. Very nice.
Alright. So now we're going to do some jumpies in order to make some progress. While jumpies are happening, I think if we have any donations to read.
Funny Speedrun donated $15. Hey, what's going on, guys? Funny Speedrun here. I'm loving the event. Big shout out to my friend Nitros and good luck on the run.
Thank you very much, Funny Speedrun.
Martin donated $25. Hey Nitros, glad to see one of my best friends run seasons here today. The guys from 10K are cheering you on, so good luck with the run.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Shadax donated $20. Beaten Wifer can't take much more. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go 1. Nico Ni 2. Nico Ni 3. Nico Ni 4. Nothing wrong with me, GL Nitro.
Thank you for the good luck as well.
So while donations were going up, you saw sort of the first instance. Well, we saw it a little bit with the Ember Seed, or when we picked up the Seed Satchel, but these sort of 2D sections that we'll be moving through. We're going to see them a couple times throughout a number of dungeons. A cool little quirk about them that we didn't see demonstrated there, but we'll see in a later dungeon, Dungeon 4, is that there are underground areas that have moving platforms, and when you spawn into one of these 2D areas, there is a fade-in that causes Link to stop moving, and the moving platforms move. You can do a pause buffer to essentially cancel how long it takes Link to start moving, which we're able to use to move a little bit faster and catch platforms we wouldn't be able to normally. Which brings us into Omuai, the third mini-boss. Omuai is a Splatoon joke. No, Squid Kid. One of them. It's one of those. I don't remember which one. But it's dead, so it doesn't matter now. No, Link was the kid, they were the squids. That's what it was. Sorry, I forgot. But Omuai is dead, which means that we can head on into the... pick up the boss key, do another manip, and then fight the poisonous moth.
Yeah, so like he said, I'm gonna be attempting another manip here coming up. This one is not really as important, but I'm basically gonna be manipulating some more Pegasus seeds, as well as trying to manipulate the boss fight itself. So.
Yeah. One of the main reasons for that is that at the start of the boss fight, the boss can go either left or right. If you choose wrong on which side you decide to stand on and they go the opposite way, it's a little bit more difficult to get a 0 cycle kill, essentially. So we just make sure that they head on over to the right so that we can kill them with relative ease.
Okay, a little bit of a slow fight, but it's okay. Still got him pretty quickly. Alright, so that's gonna be it for Dungeon 3. Alright.
And you'll see there, it's not really... Oh, sorry.
Nah, go ahead.
As I say, it's not really been mentioned so far, but a big part of the game in general has to do with inventory management. It's kind of the underbelly. It's not like JRPG levels of inventory management, but because all the items can be placed in certain locations, and it's not something that's talked about, a lot of the game is kind of muscle memory and knowing where your items are at all time to be able to do quick inventory switches without getting too bogged down by everything in the game.
Yeah, and it's definitely one of the most annoying parts as well of de-rusting this game, as well as when we come up with new routes, such as earlier this year, where we found some new tricks. Having to rework all of your muscle memory inside the menu is quite tough to get used to, but hopefully it goes alright for this run. So here I'm gonna take a slight detour here with Ricky to punch this cave open. Not many people actually know that you can punch it open instead of using a bomb. But I got this jewel. That's going to come in handy for opening a later dungeon. But coming up here, we're going to do a bit of a skip in Subrotia, which maybe you could start explaining.
Okay, so normally if there's a rock on a side and there's a hole in front of the rock, you can't pick up that rock, right? Makes sense? You got it? Good? Cool. Glad we got on the same page. But it turns out that if you have insane control of your subpixel, then you might be able to manipulate that a little bit with some bombs, some speed, and some jumps. Quick recap, subpixels, think of them as sort of the in-betweens of pixels. So if pixels are 1, 2, 3, 4, subpixels are 1.5, 2.5, 3.5. That's wrong, but it gets the idea across. What we can use those to do by setting them is a trick that allows us to clip into the wall, turn around, pick up the rock, and get across without falling in, which you saw Nitros do there with extreme ease. The version of the trick that we do there is a lot easier than how it used to be not that long ago, maybe like 5 months ago, because the trick used to require double frame perfect inputs in order to ensure that we could get across. Now it's got a pretty significant frame window and it's not as precise, but it's cool to watch Link float. And it allows us to essentially sequence break a pretty significant part of the game, which it's called primarily hide and seek skip because it allows us to skip a section of the game that happens way later on, where we would normally be entering Subrosia from a different portal and jump into a trigger that activates a hide and seek minigame where 2 Subrosians steal our feather and we have to hide from them, chase them, and get our feather back. So we get to skip a pretty significant chunk of the game as a result. One of the other things that we are going to do now as well is a little bit more sequence breaking by making this jump over on the other side here.
Yeah, this is a bit annoying. I think I'm just gonna take the potion loss in this scenario. Yeah, so this jump took me a few tries. As you can see there, yeah, that's a pretty precise jump with that bomb because you have to go kind of at an angle. And you saw there that I lost all of my hearts, but they went way back to full, and that's because of the potion that we got from manipulating Dungeon 1 earlier, as well as getting the ring. So the potion basically works like a fairy from other Zelda games in the sense that it revives you once you run out of health. You normally don't want to use it in a situation like that, but unfortunately Subrosia here does not really have that many sources of health, so just to keep going with the correct route, I just kind of took the L there and used up the potion, but it should hopefully be alright. It's normally pretty nice to have for some of the late game dungeons, just as kind of a failsafe in case you run very low on health, but if I play things appropriately, we shouldn't really be needing it either way, because there's plenty of other safeties that I can grab all over.
And the big reason that we saw Nitros doing that jump was in order to grab the bomb flower, which was just used right here, so that we can get access to fall significantly earlier as well. So both spring and fall we've now picked up on before Dungeon 4. Normally, normally we'd be picking up spring before Dungeon 4, but we'd be using a different portal and playing that hide and seek game. And then we'd normally be getting fall after Dungeon 4, before we go into Dungeon 5. However, again, using a different portal where we don't have to make that bomb jump. But because of the tricks, we're able to sequence break, grab both of those seasons here in Subrosia, which means that we now have all 4 seasons before Dungeon 4, and it means that whenever we're coming back to Subrosia, we don't really have to be going out of our way to pick up those seasons anymore. So anytime we're coming in, we're able to just get straight to where we need to go and kind of move on with our lives. But by doing the sequence break and getting spring in particular earlier, what it allows us to do is skip what's called the Natsu region. The Natsu region of the game is an area above where Nitros is at right now, where normally whatever animal companion you pick, either Ricky, Dimitri, or Moosh, there's a set of screens that are based on that animal companion. So if you pick Ricky, there's a bunch of cliffs. If you pick Moosh, there's a bunch of holes for you to fly over. If you pick Dimitri, it's a bunch of water with currents that you need to swim through. We're able to skip past that entirely because we now have spring, which means we can come to the sunken city from below, as Nitros has just shown. So what it means essentially is it just saves time, especially with Ricky. It's a lot of jumping up cliffs, which is slow. Plus, again, we don't like Ricky. I cannot stress this enough. So the less time we spend with Ricky, the happier we all are. What Nitros just did there was pick up the Gale Seeds. The Gale Seeds are our warp seeds, as you can see. We throw ourselves up into the sky and land at any other tree that we've visited. We're going to be making use of that pretty often in order to ensure that we can pick up Pegasus Seeds without too much of an issue. Just to make sure we're never really running empty. It's just a nice way.
And you also saw me enter this house here. That was basically to set my position for when I save and quit the game to where it warps me back, because if I did not do that, it would warp me all the way back to the portal that I came out of Sabrotia from. And this is basically going to save me time in backtracking, not only for when I got those seeds, but also once I get the Source Flippers here in a minute, which are going to be an item that allows me to basically swim in this water.
We can jump, we can swim. The only thing left for us to be able to do is fly, and oh, that'll come. We got our flippy floppies. This is Dimitri, by the way. Dimitri was our second animal companion that we came into contact with. We got to use him to head up some waterfalls. But now that we can swim, we part our ways with Dimitri, and we'll never see them again. They're the second best animal companion, so we'll miss them a little bit. But we find our way here up now to Mount Cuckoo, and can begin making our way over towards Dungeon 4. Here in Mount Cuckoo, we're going to do a little bit of a clip through a rock. If you push Link into a unripened mushroom, which don't read too much into that, but unripened mushrooms are rocks, as you know. You can sort of clip into that a little bit and allow you to grab the cuckoo through the wall there, which just saves a little bit of time, and it looks cool. But we need to go ahead and get up to the top here so we can pick up those bananas and immediately provide them to the best animal companion, the most important animal companion, the cutest animal companion, and that's Moosh. Look at Moosh. Oh my goodness. We love Moosh. Moosh can hop, Moosh can fly. Moosh can do everything Ricky can do, except is cooler, you know? But we need Moosh here so that we can pick up the Dungeon 4 key. Unfortunately, our time with Moosh will be short. It's a sad day, but we take what we can get in these trying times. We set a little save point there so that once Nitros picks up the dungeon key, you can do a simple save and quit to get back there. But now we can use Moosh to hop on over these holes. There we go. And this key, all the dungeon keys in Seasons tend to not really be keys to the start of the dungeon. They tend to be keys that do some oddly obtuse thing that's vaguely related to the dungeon so that we can get access to it. In this case, we of course use our dungeon key to turn off a waterfall. Because that's... I don't need to explain myself, it's clear, never mind. Sorry.
Yeah, so going to make use of another rooster here in order to cross this gap. And yeah, gonna be using the key here right away to drain out that waterfall so that once we change into summer and make some vines appear, we can finally head into Dungeon 4.
Dungeon 4, and this is my opinion, is the hardest dungeon in the game. And it's not because the dungeon itself is particularly like significantly more difficult than a Dungeon 7 or Dungeon 8. But I tend to find that at the health that you're at, when you get to Dungeon 4, it's the hardest relative to how much health you have, if that makes sense. It's a bit of a toughie, and you can take a lot of chip damage without really thinking about it.
So thankfully I got a random bomb drop earlier on from the bushes, so I don't have to get an extra one here since basically in Sunken City we got our bombs like stolen or whatever by those little kids that we needed to help to get the meat tree, but yeah, you needed to blow up this wall here, and here's the best room in the game.
It's just like retribution for every meme of Link breaking pots in a house is now just Link having to push pots slowly and methodically to buttons so that he can progress. It's just a lot of payback for decades of abuse. All that, and for what? What's our grand prize? The key. It was a small key.
Yeah, so basically this first part of the dungeon is going to consist with me grabbing some small keys before I can move on to the right side.
And what you'll see here in a few screens is making use of that pause buffer as you enter into a 2D section in order to gain a little bit of extra time to get to a moving platform. These two screens are nightmares because of the keys. There you go. So it makes that getting to that first rising platform there a lot easier, as if you don't do the buffer, it's pretty precise movement. You can still make it, but with the keys and everything, it's a pain. Left side done. Off to the right. I think as we get off to the right side here, if we have any donations, now is a good time.
Bamboo Shadow donated $5. Heart ring is best ring. Fino is triggered now laughing face. Good luck to Nitros, the chosen one. HSS skipped first try or unsub. Shoutouts to the season's community. Greetings from Germany.
Thanks, Bamboo.
Big shout out to Bamboo. He's also wrong, but big shout out to Bamboo. We have time for another one.
Well, actually, we have this this room here is kind of, or this key is kind of interesting. I have to grab this key before it falls into the water, because otherwise you basically have to dive down to get it, and if you do that, you have to like go for a text box that tells you that you got a small key, and it's a little slow, so we make sure to grab it before it falls down. And here you can see I'm fairly low on Pegasus seeds. Thankfully, though, there's a very convenient source of drops right here. Gonna equip the powering here since I'm fairly low on health as well, and would rather not risk dying, since if you die inside a dungeon, you basically go back to the dungeon entrance, and I would have to do quite a bit of backtracking. Not too much at this point, but there's a set of tough screens coming up here, which can deal a bit of damage if you're not careful.
That's true, this mini boss is a rough one. You wouldn't want to die to this mini boss, that'd be pretty embarrassing. This mini boss just is invulnerable when the lights are off. Simply turn the lights on and the boss can do very little to you. It's it's a boss.
Yeah, you basically...
Reminiscent of another boss if you're familiar with Zelda.
Yeah. Yeah, you just have to slash the one with the shadow below it, since that's the real one out of the clones. And now we're going to be on our way to get the item of this dungeon, which is the slingshot. It's basically going to allow us to shoot all of these seeds that we have in our seed satchel, and make for a nice proximity weapon, and also as a tool to hit things from far away, such as those torches that we ran past earlier on. We're going to be able to shoot our ember seeds at those to light them from further away. you're actually gonna see here that I'm gonna basically light the torches here, and then save and quit once the last torch is lit, and that's gonna unlock a chest that I'm gonna grab a little bit later. First, we're gonna go and try and get the boss key, and there is kind of a rough screen here. Here you can see, like, when you beat the mini-boss as well, I forgot to mention this earlier, but you get this, like, portal, which takes you back to the mini-boss room. And here we want to hit these switches. Hopefully the keys don't get in the way, thank goodness.
Nice.
And tricky jump here coming up to hopefully skip going around the room. Ah, the keys.
Ooh. The keys on these screens are a bit of a nightmare, a bit of a nuisance.
Yeah, that's one of the trickier ones, since you have to really control your speed so that you don't actually run off that platform once you land a precise jump to it in the first place. So getting it second try is maybe slightly faster than doing the room normally, so it's not too bad at all.
Yeah. Now with that, we have all of our keys and can head on over to the Dungeon 4 boss, which is Goma. Another familiar face in the Zelda boss lexicon. This time around, Goma can't help but have a huge eye and wants to block it with a giant claw, but it's a bit of a misjudgment on how large that claw actually is, which we're going to make huge use of in the fight.
Yeah, you can see here the usage of the Gale Seeds that are normally like the fast-traveling ones. You can actually just use them to take care of enemies, such as those Wish Ropes that would normally take many hits with the sword. Gonna use this menu here to equip the slingshot for the boss, as well as buffer that very precise jump. So yeah, this boss can be a bit scary. I'll let Fee explain it, but I'll try to focus here.
Alright, so normally this boss has two phases. First phase, you want to destroy the claw, and then second phase, you want to punch Goma in the eye. What we're going to do instead is skip that by simply aligning ourselves just to the right of that claw so that it can't block our shots, and then we're just going to take shots over and over again. Part of the reason for this is that it's fast, obviously, as the fight is now over. Part of it is because it's fast, part of it is because Goma's eye stays open a lot longer, and part of it is that Goma moves a lot less erratically. When Goma loses that claw, they freak out pretty severely and start spawning little minions for you to kill and so forth. So that just cleans up the fight, makes it super easy. It can just be scary because when you get grabbed, you take a significant chunk of damage. And you can run out of seeds, which would be bad.
Yeah, so before the next dungeon, Dungeon 5, I'm gonna go on this little bit of a kind of treasure hunt or something. I'm gonna be grabbing 2 more of those jewels, at the same kind as the one I grabbed after Dungeon 3. You basically need to grab 4 of these around the world in order to actually open Dungeon 6, which is gonna come after the next dungeon, of course. And you can see here, like, a common thing as well that's gonna happen after basically every dungeon almost is that I'm gonna take the time to warp back to this Pegasus tree. That is not all of the Pegasus seeds. Let's try that again. But yeah, now that I have those, I'm gonna head back to actually the town. You see here, this is the... let's see, okay. The warp point that I opened much earlier. And that's actually because I'm going to be grabbing another jewel on the beach. So here, once again, I'm going to be entering one of these entrances up here to save or set a save warp point so that I can get back here without much backtracking. And I guess you can kind of explain here what's going to be coming up.
Well, right here, we have to get our jewel. So we have to enter the domain of a mysterious beast that guards a secluded island. Very scary, very tough. Who knows what that beast might be? It's marked by its terror with a question mark, as a true mystery, as the Black Beast starts to fight. Oh, it was a... Okay, well, that's fine too, I guess. But now that we have that jewel, we can start heading over towards Dungeon 5. Normally, we'd have to stop into Subrosia here to get that bomb flower and go get Fall. But since Nitros already took care of that early on before Dungeon 4, we get to skip that part of it. It's nice here. just because it's a little bit less traveling. It front loads all of Subrosia so that later on we can spend more time just going from overworld to dungeon. We're going to switch to fall because everyone knows that fall ripens mushrooms that we're going to pick up and throw out of the way. It also will create some leaves on the ground that we can walk over in some occasions. But it's going to let us get into Dungeon 5 here, the Unicorn's Cave. Unicorn's Cave is a very quick dungeon. It's a lot of... it's pretty short. It's very quick and snappy. I like it. It's a lot of fun without being too insanely difficult. Really at all. The main difficulty here comes from the last boss being a little bit erratic. But our goal here is to make use of these minecarts, get to where we need to go, and we want to pick up our dungeon item pretty much immediately here. We're going to avoid some fireballs. We don't want to get singed. All is well. We're going to bait these thwomps. Absolute nerds. They fell for it. And then we're going to pick up our magnet glove. Magnet glove is a pretty cool item here that's going to let us essentially flip our polarity between north and south and use it in tandem with a couple of different things. In particular, there are those you see a little like N orb that you're able to push, and there are some static blocks you're able to pull yourself towards, which you're going to see here as well. But essentially, we can make use of these to float through the air with relative ease. We're going to use it for most of Dungeon 5 here. A cool little quirk of the Magnet Glove that you saw there was what looked like Nitros jumping off of nothing, off of a gap. Essentially, due to the mechanics of the Magnet Glove needing to allow Link to kind of hover for a bit in order to swap between north and south without immediately plummeting to his death, there's enough time to find purchase to essentially jump out of thin air. This room, in case you're curious, you have to open the chest in the same order that you kill the Armos in. So if you kill them all at the same time and don't know what you're doing, you may have to reset the room.
And you also saw there I got a lucky Pegasus Seed drop from one of those Armoses, which is quite nice. It's just really an added bonus to the Pegasus Seeds that I already had, since they would pretty much suffice as they were, but it's always nice to have, of course.
Yeah. Nitros can correct me on this one if I'm wrong, but for this point forward, like I feel like a lot of the Pegasus Seeds are pretty mapped out, so any drops that we get are just able to fill in those gaps where we know that we're not going to be using one. So it's just nice to have it.
And there you saw me unlock that kind of... Maybe you didn't see it, but basically by pushing that block, I unlocked a middle ball that I'm going to be using after the mini-boss a bit later on in order to basically use it to hit a switch. And here you can see a funny quirk. These rotating magnets are a bit strange because after you let go of the magnet, as you saw there, there's a couple of frames, actually quite a few of them, where you can just literally walk on nothing as well. It's not frame perfect like that jump earlier, but it's a weird quirk. It only works with the ones that are like rotating around, so not these regular ones like the one here.
Right here, after Nitros picks up this key, we're going to get into the Dungeon 5 mini-boss, Saiger. Saiger is... I don't know. Saiger's cool. I like Saiger. I'm a fan of Saiger. A couple different attack patterns. But overall, once you've learned the patterns, it's pretty easy to stay safe and just take some swipes at that tail. And Saiger's done.
And yeah, here, like I mentioned, you're going to be seeing this magnet ball here. We're also going to be doing a bit of a skip here in the next room, where we just simply take the hit for this fire. You're intended to go through like this whole other section of the dungeon to get that magnet ball there and protect against the fire, but you can just jump through it, no problem. Take a little bit of a damage boost.
Get some clean movement with the combination of the Pegasus Seeds, the Feather, and the Glove to grab that boss key super smoothly and start heading over to the boss. And because we're in Dungeon 5, the Unicorn's Cave, we of course all know that the boss is Dig Dogger. So instead of the boss having a unicorn horn, we're instead going to have a ball with, 20 unicorn horns on it. And we're going to use that to absolutely wreck his face. And there we go. Takes 4 hits there, and after the 4th hit, Dig Dogger splits into a bunch of mini Dig Doggers that all die in one crush. Very clean.
Yeah, getting that one cycle takes there's partly some luck to it, I guess, with where the mini Dig Doggers jump out after the bigger guy splits, but it also takes quite a bit of finicky execution with that Manic Love and directing that metal ball, so I'm pretty happy with a one cycle there. That's definitely not a super common occurrence.
Yeah, Nitro's making it look super easy there, but when you're playing the game casually, I know for a lot of people they hate that boss because it's so hard to manipulate that Magna Ball to do what you want it to do.
So yeah,
picking up some more seeds.
If you've been keeping track, so I've gotten 3 of the 4 jewels so far. 1 after Dungeon 3, 2 after Dungeon 4. So now we're going to get the 4th and final one that we're going to need to enter Tarm Ruins, which is the area for Dungeon 6. So I'm just going to be talking to this guy here. The reason why this was not done earlier is because it requires you to have beaten basically all of the dungeons before Dungeon 6. So that's why we're doing it now.
Seasons is pretty good about its triggers being locked by essences rather than simply by access. So there's a lot of times where you can access a location but can't actually trigger the progress to like get to a dungeon earlier until you have enough essences, which kind of locks it for the all essences run. If you're big into music, you probably like this song because every Seasons player ever thinks this is the greatest song in the game. Please enjoy.
But yeah, essentially, like, the gimmick of this area is that we're going to be making use of all of our 4 seasons that we've collected throughout our journey and use them to cross various things, like here using summer to get up here with making the vines, and now we're going to change to winter to make those trees on the left make a path for us, as well as a kind of snow block on the next screen so we can head our way up, and just a bunch of this stuff using the stuff we've got. And there's also going to be sort of a Lost Woods kind of maze section that we're going to go through, where you basically have to change the seasons from coldest to warmest, along with kind of remembering a set path to go through. At first we're just going to be going straight to the left while changing the seasons in the manner that I just mentioned. And that's a slight detour to actually get the level 2 sword, since we only have the level 1 sword at the moment. You're actually supposed to like get the hint for how to do this part by doing this huge trading sequence, by giving a bunch of different items and trading them across many NPCs around the world. But fortunately, it's always a set path on every playthrough, so if you just know the path and you're experienced, you can just go here whenever you like. So it's really convenient for us because the level 2 sword increases the damage that the sword deals, and despite this kind of detour that we do to get it, it does end up paying off due to just how much time it saves on the bosses in the later game, since they're mainly based on sword damage.
And being able to grab the level 2 sword, the Oracle of Ages run altogether is a different beast, but with regards to the level 2 sword in particular, it is mildly amusing because the trade quest in Ages gives you the sword, so you would kind of have to do it if you wanted the sword, where here, as Nitro said, we just get a code, so like, if you know the code, this was Game Boy Color, they couldn't change it per file, so as long as you know it, you're good. And Tarm really does make the best use of the seasons mechanic in the game. We don't really get to see the level of swapping between seasons and having to manipulate the world in order to get through in such a enclosed space. So it is super cool in that regard. I mean, it would have been definitely something that the game could use more of, IMO. But as Nitros finishes up with Tarm Ruin here, we're entering into Dungeon 6. Dungeon 6 is a dungeon that is pretty heavily surrounded by, at least in a casual sense, the idea of being like a house of traps, where you find a lot of rooms that look the same but are slightly different and will be the wrong way to go, essentially. So if you're playing it casually, it can be pretty frustrating, but if you know the route, this dungeon becomes pretty straightforward and pretty easy. It's still a lot of fun. It also has arguably the best boss or the worst boss, depending on who you ask. I'm a big fan, but it's definitely a very fun dungeon.
Yeah, so we're gonna do a short puzzle here where I have to direct this magnet ball with the magnet gloves in order to hit a switch on the other side of the room. We're gonna get a small key, and then once again save and quit, and then really get going in this dungeon.
It also has an homage to Indiana Jones.
Yeah, we'll see that later on. It's a pretty unique and interesting room.
So the way that this dungeon's broken down for our purposes for the run is that our goal is to kind of go up the right side first in order to get the dungeon item. And then once we have the dungeon item, we can progress up the left-hand side. So it's sort of a split tower kind of deal, where you're just going up one, then the other. Already, we're finding ourselves pretty close here to the top to pick up that dungeon item. Making use of those gale seeds to get rid of those spiky beetles, we can push our trampoline in peace. And what we're going to get here for our dungeon item kind of reveals another quirk about Seasons, which is that the items that are upgradable don't run on like a progression system. It's not like you have to get level 1 to get level 2, because we're just about to pick up the level 2 boomerang, the magic boomerang. You can see that little L2 next to it. We never got the first boomerang because it requires us to dance, and Nitros may not have 2 left feet, but I do, so I asked him kindly not to mess with it. But Magic Boomerang, it essentially takes the concept of the boomerang, which you just throw it, it comes back. It allows you to get a pretty precise control over the boomerang's motion and movement. So you can curve it significantly. We're going to see Nitros make use of it in these upcoming rooms to hit a couple of switches. But other than that, it's a great tool for paralyzing enemies. Most enemies, almost all of them that get hit by it, will stop in place. We don't need to make much use of it for our purposes, but it is a very powerful tool in like a more casual playthrough sense. And here we go. Clean.
Pretty bad luck with these guys. If you hit an enemy with the magical boomerang, it basically sends it straight back, and you generally want to use it to like hit switches that are kind of far away, because you like control the magical boomerang with the directional input, so it can go in various different places that you would not be able to reach with this slingshot here.
Yeah. And when you throw it, you are kind of stuck in place if you want to keep control of it, so you want to hit the first time. Here it is, the room that is going to try and crush Link. Nitros is too fast though. If you get crushed, you do, I believe, it's been a long time since I've been crushed, but I think you just get sent back to the start.
Yeah, that's correct.
That's messed up. You get crushed one time. You're telling me I lose all of my bones and that suddenly I go back to the start of the dungeon? I don't know about that. That seems unfair.
So yeah, just one more small key here, and we're going to be coming up on the mini boss, which might be good to explain.
The mini boss is Vire. Vire is also a Zelda staple, and quite a few of the 2D Zeldas. Vire likes to take on 3 different movement patterns: one where he charges, one where he circles, and one where he pops in and shoots and then runs away. That's the charge in. That's the easiest one. That's what we like to see. We want to ruin his life. There we saw the wraparound, which was still hittable but annoying, and then we saw the third. We got to see all 3 of them. That third one is impossible to hit. So we really hope for that first pattern that we saw where he charges in, and the second pattern where they loop around is definitely still doable. So a little bit of unluckiness there, but we made it through. Here, we're about to see a nice little test of Nitro's luck as we got a 50-50 coming up. Come on. Okay. It's fine. First time, first try.
Second try.
And there we go. First try every time. No problem. But that room is an actual 50-50. One button will spawn the staircase. The other one will spawn a bunch of snicks to come down and attack you. Rather than deal with them to do anything with the button, you just reset the room. And then try again. You can get bad luck. I think there was a runner, Sagaz, that got a 16 something, 12, over double digits of the wrong 50-50, which is super unlucky.
And yeah, now we're also coming up on the boss, which I'm definitely going to be focusing during, so I'll hand it to you to explain this.
Manhandla's awesome. Manhandla is a little choo-choo type being, except instead of having just being a large green head, it has 4 mouths that will open up, and when they open up, they are attackable with the boomerang, and only the boomerang. So what you want to do is manipulate the heads to open. You can manipulate them to open by essentially moving to the opposite side. The mouths opposite from where you are the mouths that will open on Manhandla, which pairs really niftily with the magic boomerang that you have to wrap around and have control over in order to hit the heads. 3 hits on each head takes care of them, then you hit the body 3 times, it opens up its little juicy center, you take a slash, you win, Nitros is sick.
Yeah, so that's a very technical fight because you have to react accordingly to when the mouths actually open, because it can be on kind of different small timers. As well as actually controlling the magical boomerang is very tricky in order to get basically multiple hits in just one boomerang. Since, like I mentioned, the boomerang basically gets sent back once it actually hits something. So that was a fairly decent fight overall.
Plus, you're in a room that has the moving sand, which does move you as well, so it's kind of has the potential to run you into Manhandla, which causes problems as well. So it's a lot to balance all at once, and it was executed very well there.
So because I wasted some Gale Seeds earlier on, I went and got that Gale Seed tree just for some safety. Come on, okay. You can make a precise boomerang throw between those blocks to save a little bit of time.
Here we go. So now we need to make our way to Dungeon 7, but Dungeon 7 is over in the graveyard. So we need to take a little boat to get there. So we have to make use of these undead pirates. Unfortunately, the captain lost their rusty bell. Well, they lost their bell. We have to go find it in the shipwreck, which happens to be in the desert. So now we need to make our way on over, which Nitros is manipulating as well to essentially ensure that, similar to the Star Wars where there's 4 locations, ensuring that the bell here is going to show up in the first closest spot. This code here is the same every time, so once you have an idea of what it is, you're good to go. However, I want to say it doesn't work until you've actually triggered that. So, to find the bell, of course, we need the help of the ghost head. No, sorry. We need to talk to the ghost of a skeleton to find the skeleton's head so that we can then find the bell. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, so what we're manipulating here is for this pit here to be in the first location, which it is, thankfully. So similarly to that star we dug up in Zebrosha earlier that we also did a manipulation for, this pit can be in like 4 different locations normally, but we obviously manipulate it to be the fastest one. And it's even more important in this case because especially the last spot is much further away from all of the other ones, so it's pretty important to not get that. And also included in Manip is a nice Pegasus Seed drop right there. And now we're basically going to be taking that rusty bell that we got to this like cleaner or whatever in Zebrosha so that they can polish the bell. We'll give them back to the pirates and then we can sail our way into Dungeon 7.
and you'll see after the bell gets cleaned up here, that on his way back, Nitros is going to make a little bit of a wide movement down a couple of screens to avoid a trigger. That hide and seek trigger that we skipped way, way, way back, that trigger persists. So it's 100% possible to, while you're making your way back, hit that trigger and still have to do hide and seek. So if you ever get, 2/3 of the way through a run and decide you want to play a little game, you could always just hit that if you want to, but I feel like we want to make sure we don't do that.
Yeah, I actually, when this route first came out, when I first found the original version of the hide and seek skip, I accidentally went down into that trigger because I got a little greedy with the movement, and yeah, it's basically like a straight up 2-minute time loss if you do that and actually proceed with the minigame. Since we haven't really saved in quite a while, last time we saved was that RNG manip that I started, so it would be very, very bad, but thankfully, well, you saw I stayed at the top of that screen to completely avoid messing with that trigger. And here's a pretty fun cutscene of sailing out through the sand and into the sea with pirates.
Do we have any reading happening?
We've certainly got a little reading, at least with these text boxes, so yeah.
People also love the pirate song. The pirate song is often people's second favorite song after Tarm Ruins, or they fight and say it's the best one. It's a perpetual battle between which song is better.
And yeah, here's this little sequence here. Apparently, like, these pirates are seasick or something, even though they've never actually been at sea before. So that's a little bit of an interesting quirk with these guys, I guess, but yeah, just smashing through some more text here before we can actually head on into Dungeon 7, which is going to be featuring another RNG manipulation as well as one of the tougher little skips that we can do. Which,
at this point, probably the toughest skip.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very arguable. But yeah, the manip in this dungeon is not really going to be for necessarily a trick or anything. It's mostly going to be for dungeon patterns and other sources of randomness that are present here, so it's pretty nice if I can manage to nail it, but I'm gonna save and reset basically once I get into the dungeon.
And most importantly, Nitros failed to mention this because he was busy explaining like important speedrun things, but it also has the best item in any Zelda game ever that's ever existed. So we're gonna let Nitros do manip now. Doing the manip is a little bit difficult with the level 2 sword at full health.
This was
because
wrong. We can just retry, it's fine.
Because those sword beams make a noise that covers the sound of the swings.
Okay, this should be good. Yeah, just like you mentioned, it can be a little tough to mention with the sword beams as well, but this was correct, so let's see.
There we go. And also, Dungeon 7 is the best dungeon in the game for sure, especially once you get to that second half. I mean, it has a great skip, and the second half you are in possession of the best item in any Zelda game, so it's awesome all the way through. So part of that manip ensured that those Wizrobes would be in very easy to kill positions, because if they're too spread out, you can end up having to take 2 or 3 cycles and it becomes a huge pain. So part of the manip does keep them in a very easy spot to get. And here we're going to be seeing the post skip, the first post skip. So normally those torches, when they go out, you get warped back to the start of the dungeon. To ensure that they don't go out, you would have to go and fight a Poe. That Poe, once you defeat it, ooh, very nice. That Poe, when it gets defeated, will keep the torches lit. However, if you're just quick, you can actually just eke it out and get into the staircase before you get sent back to the start. It used to be arguably the second hardest trick. I think due to the new strats, it's probably the hardest trick in the game now, so very, very clean execution there. And here we see the second sort of value of the manip that Nitros is doing. All those Armoses normally are supposed to be, it's supposed to be random which one of those is the one that you can push and which ones are enemies. By doing the manip, Nitros ensures that that close one to the button is always the one that is going to be the correct statue, so that you can just push it straight on. You also saw earlier, if you recall, Nitros mentioned that the keys make it very difficult to do RNG manips because they roll RNG every other frame that they move. But because the movement on that screen is so straightforward and clean, like there's not a whole bunch you have to do, there's not a lot of variance there, it's easy to keep that manipulation. And here we have a very annoying enemy in the Magu Nessus. They like to run away and are cruel and rude. Here we're seeing the end of the manipulation happen, where Nitros is just going to get another good position on that Armo statue to make sure that we can not have to deal with too much nonsense. And then we're going to carry on with Dungeon 7. And that's the end of the manip, so everything from here on out is just kind of going for it. But that first part of the dungeon is potentially a huge time loss if you're not ensuring that those statues are well placed, or that those whiz ropes are well placed at the start. Here we get to fight the second of the Poe sisters, though we never got to fight the first one. And pretty easy fight.
And the reason why we have to do that is because this room here would be similar to that room we did post skip in. So like the torches would normally be ticking down and going out, and there's just not enough time to make it through that room without actually killing the post sisters and keeping the torches lit like that.
Here we get to see the use of that air stagnating to be able to jump over that gap. And Chad, are you ready? It's the moment. It's the one. Hold on. Wait for it. Come on.
Ooh.
Oh, Nitro's keeping us in suspense. There it is. Oh my goodness. Chat. We have double jumps. We have glides. We have the cape. We have Pegasus Seeds plus cape. It's an unbeatable combination. You don't understand. It's legitimately the best combination of items in Zelda that you can possibly have. It allows us to just have a bunch of fun when we're moving around at all times, and it gives just great mobility for Link, and also makes Ricky look even more stupid for existing. So, you know, that's all we can ask for.
Yeah, fighting these small dumps here can be a little tricky because of the floor that's crumbling. This health is moderately scary, but it should still be okay. Or the mini-boss here.
Yeah, mini-boss here. So we fight both the Poe sisters now together. This time they come with a twist where if they blow out... Well, I mean, I say twist, but I guess there have been other rooms like this. If they blow out all of the torches, you go back to the start. So you can not die to them, but still lose the fight. But they have pretty predictable patterns that aren't super hard to dodge, and Nitros takes care of it super easily.
Yeah, and you see here I'm pretty low on health, but I didn't actually get the fairy because there's pots coming up right here that also have fairies, conveniently enough.
And this is another one of those rooms where, especially when you're playing this for the first time, I'm sure it's pretty annoying to just walk through and try to figure out where you're supposed to go, but pretty straightforward.
Oh yeah, and another perk of the post skip that we did earlier is that we get to skip a small key that would normally be required, so that's the one we would have gone there on the left-hand side, which is a very annoying one to get, so I'm very thankful that we can skip it with that.
Absolutely. So here, we're picking up that boss key. We gotta hit some switches to unlock the door, kill some Stalfos, and then make our way back on over. Well, save and quit, and then make our way back on over to our good buddy Gliok. Gliok, listen, I'm not a Zelda 1 speedrunner. I've done, you know, like 2 fake casual speedruns. And Gliok, they wrecked me, to put it nicely, because I was a scrub. In this game, you have the Z-axis. You have a cape. Now, I cannot stress to you how much being able to simply float over Gliok nullifies everything.
It's not only that as well, but also the fact that we have the level 2 powering in combination with the level 2 sword just allows us to utterly just melt this guy. So, yeah. Pretty smooth Dungeon 7, besides that first minute fail. And you notice here I'm actually skipping the heart container, which is a bit of a risky play actually, even in a marathon, but I do this in all of my attempts because unlike the other dungeons, there's going to be a fairy, or actually pair of fairies that are just completely on the way to the next dungeon and are very easy to grab, so... and you're also going to see here I'll have quite a few Pegasus seeds left after Dungeon 7, and it's going to be the only case here after a dungeon where I don't actually go and refill on the Pegasus tree. We're just going straight there because, again, there's another piece of convenience here where on the way in a few screens there's actually a pair of bushes that also contain 2 Pegasus seed drops, which is very nice to get back to full before Dungeon 8.
The game is honestly pretty good about putting Pegasus seeds in particular in sort of set bush locations or pot locations that you would want to find them in. So it's very nice. Here we have to do a nice little skip. This is a skip that a lot of people did casually when they first played the game because they didn't know what to do. There's a nice little jump you're going to do here. Now, if you've played the game, you may have done that at some point. Probably not on the first try like that, but you probably did it. Potentially, but in reality, you're kind of expected to change the season to fall and turn all of those holes into leaves that you can just walk over. But no, we can just jump over. So
right.
If you've done that when you did, you're sick. You're a speedrunner.
Yeah. So a little bit of a cutscene here. We might have time for one small donation message.
Creepy Gar donated $5. Wanna play 8-ball?
Absolutely, after this run. We have time for... Well, actually, we're gonna get back into the gameplay very shortly here. Yeah, so this volcano thing is basically gonna open up the path as well to the actual dungeon. It's quite weird that just throwing a bomb into that lava pool explodes the entire volcano, but, just Zelda stuff.
Link just destroyed the environment. Link destroyed the environment. Some people would say Link's the villain. I wouldn't say, I'm just saying some people would say that. Potentially.
Yeah, got a series of kind of precise jumps coming up here, really pushing the cave in combination with the Pegasus seeds to its limits here. In this room to skip using the manic gloves here, and also in the next room to hopefully make a bit of a shortcut here.
Look at this movement. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. This is one of
if
the
that had worked, I would have lost them.
more precise jumps. I suppose I'll attempt it again. The keys. Yeah.
Oh no.
Not much I could have done there. I'll just push the block normally since I'm pretty low on health. Yeah. It's a great example of how the keys can be basically like arguably the worst enemy in the game just because of how random and unpredictable their movement is. As well as them just spawning in random locations usually. There is an enemy here that can deal a bit of damage, but I should be okay, yeah. And here is going to be those fairies I was talking about earlier, and the reason why I did not grab the heart. And yeah, now we're going to be coming up on the last dungeon.
Dungeon 8, the Sword and Shield Maze. Oh my goodness. So, this dungeon has arguably what used to be one of the hardest skips, in a skip that will essentially cut out the bottom half of the dungeon. The dungeon's kind of split into this fire and ice theming that culminates in the mini-boss, Fripolar, where you need to switch them from fire and ice to kill them. However, what you can do instead is just be good at jumping. And if you're good at jumping, then you don't have to deal with that at all. It used to be a super precise trick that involved being like a sub-pixel, double frame perfect, bomb boosted, Pegasus seeded cape jump. Now, you do a series of a bomb boosted jump to clip yourself into the wall, similar to when we did the hide and seek skip earlier on in Subrosia, and then another bomb jump to get across. So we're going to see Nitros set up Link's position here, just to be pretty precise.
Ooh, I messed up a buffer. Let's just retry that.
So here, the goal is, again, we're gonna, Nitro's falling into the hole initially to set a position, move down a little bit.
Okay, I think the Pegasus seeds might mess up a few things here. Let's just fall in the hole and try it again.
So one of the difficult parts with this setup as compared to the Magna Glove, or the hide and seek skip that we did in Subrosia earlier on, is the way Link moves on ice. Link slips around a bit more, which has a more significant effect. There we go.
And now we just make a simple bomb jump to the other side. Just like that.
There we go.
Do I still have the powering? Yes, I do. I want to hit this button just in case something atrocious happens, which is very possible with the health I'm at right now, but we'll see.
And again, that skip, that skips a very significant portion of Dungeon 8. You normally would have to go down the stairs into an entire lava section where you have to do some side scrollers and quite a few rooms in the lava themed section, and then fight the mini boss Tripolar. You don't have to do any of that anymore. Instead, you are able to head straight on over, grab the boss key, and then make your way down to the final section of the dungeon, which is essentially a back and forth of throwing ice crystals to turn the fire section into the lava section. A nice little quirk of Dungeon 8 is that even though not fighting of this dungeon in particular, not fighting the mini boss, you don't get that fairy, but those enemies, when you hit them with the boomerang, will always spawn a fairy, so you still get the fairy guaranteed as long as you make it over there.
Yeah, so here we're gonna be heading into this little section here. Nice, throw the wrong way. We want to be throwing these ice crystals into the lava things, and those are basically going to make the lava here in the basement walkable. Another perk of the skip I did over the pit is that it also allows me to have an extra small key in this area, and that's going to allow me to having to skip throwing one of these ice crystals, because normally you have to do this kind of thing 4 times. But you see this hole here to the right of this room, I can skip doing that one since I have an extra key, thankfully.
This room in particular is evil. Terrible, horrible. That blue Wizrobe right there, each of the Oracle games has a terrible blue Wizrobe. This is the one in Seasons. I've watched that blue Wizrobe hit me as I was walking with a crystal and throw the crystal off screen down there into the gap where that door is, and just lose a run. So that Wizrobe is a big bully. We don't like that Wizrobe at all. And here we go. This area too, especially when you're first playing the game, can be super confusing having to deal with minecarts, because the minecarts hold their position from wherever you leave through a staircase. So it's a matter of being optimal with getting your minecart in the correct position, taking the staircase, wrapping around, and just looping repeatedly to get everything in the right situation so that you can get the crystal over, because you can't take those crystals downstairs into the lava section and then back up the stairs. You have to be picking them up, taking the minecarts to each respective hole, and then throwing it in. You also want to make sure that when you throw it into the hole, you don't accidentally leave the screen before the cutscene triggers, because then you will not freeze the land below. Apropos of nothing. It's never happened to anyone, but hypothetically. And there we go. All of our crystals are thrown, which means that Nitros has clearance straight to the final boss of the dungeons, the ever classic Zelda boss, Medusa Head. Medusa Head is an interesting boss that doesn't really have I don't know. It's a weird boss. It's a weird boss. It's arguably one of the weaker bosses of the game, especially to be at the end of the dungeons in a dungeon that is very difficult. You're going to see Nitros pretty handily take care of this. The main gimmick here is that Medusa Head will turn you to stone, as one would expect, if you get hit by one of her orbs there that are shooting out right now. But as long as you jump over, because we have that nice little cape, it's not really a problem, and Nitros kills it with ease.
Alright, so this is our 8th and final essence, last dungeon. So with these essences, we're not gonna be going back to the tree that obviously we've been tasked with throughout the game. We're gonna go to him and get the item that's gonna let us dispel the barrier in front of the evil guy Onox's castle. And after that, we should be able to just head to the final boss and beat the game from there. You saw me again skip the heart container here, and that's because, once again, I'm passing through this cave here, which has a bunch of convenient fairies to grab. That's a nice health refill. And yeah, we're gonna be heading into this small cutscene here with the Mach tree. And after that, it's gonna be basically off to Onox's castle.
But don't worry, we're gonna get to see Onox for the first time since the start, right here, before we're about to see him for the last time.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how like little reference the game makes of this guy almost throughout the game at all. Like, yeah, we had that cutscene at the start, and now we see him again here. It's very unlike an Oracle of Ages, where the villain in that game basically, like, you see her like all the time basically. She orchestrates a lot of the evil plans, and it's much more in your face than in this game, where he's just kind of a villain in the background that you just kind of have to beat up in the end, and you don't really connect much with him at all, really.
Seasons definitely focuses more on the dungeon, in my opinion, on the dungeon design and a lot of the sort of kinetic feel and movement in the game. Ages is very heavily more story and puzzle based in nature, which I think makes Seasons a pretty great speed game, just the way it feels as you're playing it. Especially as you progress, you really feel yourself getting faster when you get the seeds, and you can start jumping and swimming and flying with the cape. It's a very good feel of progression as you're getting further and further into the game, and everything just feels super nice to play. And that's it. We picked up the Maku seed from the Maku tree. We're here. We've broken the barrier. We're gonna get the big story. Wait, story spoilers. I know there's been no story, but oh my, it was Twin Rova the whole time. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry, chat. We didn't warn you for the spoilers sometime.
Alright, so one last try here with the Maka tree, and we're going to be heading inside Onox's castle, which is going to be a bit of an enemy gauntlet to start with here. So I'm going to try my best here with the patterns that the game gives me. Hopefully take care of them pretty quickly with the level 2 sword and the power rune.
We're also going to end up seeing... Ooh!
That was really good.
Ooh. That was great placement. Alright, and we get to see Facade now. We've killed Facade once. Facade, this is the return of Facade. This time we can't kill Facade without spawning them, so we get a nice first pattern here with those fireball shots. Hopefully we get a nice...
Nice, that was a great fight.
Hey! There we go. And this is it. We've made it. We're culminated. Final boss. Final boss, phase 1. It's Din. We're fighting Din. No, sorry. Never mind. That was wrong. We have to fight Onox, who has a giant ball and chain. Slow, lumbering beast of a boss fight here. Can't be harmed by normal slashes. You have to do spin slashes in order to damage him. Just add a little bit of difficulty to the fact that he's a bit slow. There we go. First phase done. Now that Onox has gotten beaten up, brings out the girl to deal damage, except made the fatal mistake of when you hit Din, it doesn't freeze the timer on Onox's hurt box, so you can hit him twice in one slash. And also, Onox is a dragon, which, or a Mega Man boss. It's one of the two. I don't remember. Both a dragon and a Mega Man boss. And
okay.
Ooh,
yeah, I was trying to go for a stun lock
strat
strat there, like continuously hitting with the sword, but just barely messed up that last jump, so we're gonna have probably to see this fireball attack here. Yeah.
This attack is dangerous.
It's fairly predictable though once you know what's happening. But yeah, time is gonna be on the final hit on this guy once you see the text box after I land the final hit. Time.
138.59. Yo.
That's not too bad at all, considering some of the pretty dumb mistakes that happened earlier on, so I'm fairly content with that time.
Great job.
So yeah, we beat Onox, we saved the land, and we saved Din. So that's Oracle Seasons All Essences. I guess I should give a couple of shoutouts. First of all, shoutouts to everyone that's watching at this hour on stream too, as well as to everyone that donated, and as well for ESA for letting me do this run at the marathon. It's been a very cool experience to be at this event. Also shoutouts to the people in the Oracle's speedrunning community. There's been many people that helped me learn the game when I first started, and there's always like some new runners that are helping pushing the game further, which is always cool to see, especially with some new discoveries that got found this year. And thanks also to Fee for helping me out with commentary on the virtual line.
And a huge shout out to Nitros for giving everyone an awesome run and for letting me be here to bother him as he did the run. I hope everyone had a great time because it was a lot of fun for me.